Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. This is part one of who Saul Canelo Alvarez should face next and why. So let's just break it down and dig right into it. We've gotten a lot of responses from our subscribers, and we're just going to get into what they think and how it goes, and I'll give my opinions. And the first thing that we have is AZ coach. He states that he should unify and then fight Errol Spence or Charlo just to clean out that hype. And I think that'll be good as well. I think that's a good fight plan because if you look at it, if he unifies with Demetrius Andrade, he becomes undisputed. His name is even bigger than it was before. He's already the biggest star in American boxing. Imagine how much bigger it would be once he goes undisputed. And then not only that, he fights an Errol Spence Jr. Or Jermall Charlo, and these two guys are just mostly hype. These guys, not that they're bad fighters, not that they aren't good at certain things, that they're just very, very much hyped. Those would be the type of fights that would get people to come out, pay their money, not to see, Errol Spence Jr. or Charlo because they're huge fans, just to see these guys get beat because the hype surrounding them is unreal. You hear people talking about Errol Spence as a pound for pound fighter. He doesn't belong in the pound for pound. He doesn't have a pound for pound type of win. The type of win that you need to be a pound for pound fighter has to be against a top level guy like Terrence Bud Crawford. If he beats Sean Porter at this point for the WBC title, unifying against another full-fledged welterweight, then he could eke his way into the pound for pound status. But until then, until he gets that actual win, he's not a pound for pound fighter. He beat a small Mikey moving up, and then he also beat a broken Kell Brook that Triple G destroyed. He does not belong in the pound for pound based off those accomplishments. He has to fight better opponents. Jermall Charlo, at the end of the day, Jermall Charlo has just been hype. He's never faced top level competition. He's pretty much known as the bum slayer, so Jermall Tune-Up Charlo is just not the guy. But let's keep going. Augustine Roque said Canelo should fight Andrade for all the straps. I agree. I think Andrade would probably be the best fight next for Canelo, just to go undisputed, just to make history, just to have all the belts, just to have no doubt on your legacy. That is the best fight. And the next one comes from True Story, and he states Charlo. I think Charlo would be good. Jimmy, Miami, 89 says Andrade. Stop ducking. Now, at the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez is not ducking Demetrius Andrade. The person that's ducking Demetrius Andrade, if you look at who he's calling out, is the Charlo brothers. He's called out both of the Charlo brothers at 154 and at 160. He's not calling out Canelo. When he calls out Canelo, it's simply for financial purposes. That's what everyone does. So you can't say that Canelo's ducking anyone when he's fighting the best champions in the division. He's fighting Danny Jacobs. He's fighting Triple G. He's fighting literally the best guys that nobody says he will fight. And he has no problem fighting in Demetrius Andrade. You have to go off a guy's track record. And Canelo Alvarez's track record shows that he ducks no levels of competition, that he fights the best. Then when you go off of a Charlo's track record, you see that this guy has nothing but fought bum after bum after bum. He's Jermall Tune-Up Charlo. So when you look at that and you say someone's ducking, you have to revert that back to the actual party that's ducking, because 9 out of 10, the Andre versus Canelo fight will eventually happen at some point. But let's go. The next one comes from Saul Herrera. He said he should fight King Kong, and if Canelo win, people would still not believe him that he won. And at the end of the day, no matter who Canelo fights, he won't always get the credit. You see Canelo Alvarez beat Triple G, he still doesn't get the credit from the fans. And I understand that those were very close fights, and Canelo improved him in the second fight from the first, but he still doesn't get enough credit. Then he beats Danny Jacobs in a clear victory, and people even try to make controversy where there is none in that fight. So at the end of the day, people are just going to hate on Canelo Alvarez since he's the best fighter in boxing today. He's number one pound for pound. Emmanuel Moreno states Callum Smith. That would give Canelo a legitimate title at 168. In his third weight division, it would also make him a lineal champion at 160 and at 168. That would be a hell of an accomplishment. No other champion can say they're lineal in two weight divisions at the same time. So that Callum Smith fight would actually do a lot more for his career than unifying against a Demetrius Andrade. After the Callum Smith fight, he can fight the winner of Andre Sulecki in May of next year. And I think that's a great thing, too. I've never seen anyone that was, lineal champion in 2 divisions. So Canelo can make history either way it goes. I don't think there's any right or wrong choice for Canelo at this point. If he fights Callum Smith, that's a huge fight that he can build in the UK, that he can have a stadium fight. And if he knocks out Callum Smith or wins that fight in dramatic fashion, that would just simply add to the legacy and mystique of Canelo Alvarez. He would become a huge international superstar at that point. He's already a superstar in America and in Mexico and Canada. And, he's somewhat, a star in the UK, but he's not like, he's not the guy that can go over to the UK and fill a football arena with just his name. So if Canelo can pull this off against a Callum Smith in dramatic fashion, that could even make him a star in the UK at the highest level. So, he would be one of the biggest stars in the world, similar to Anthony Joshua. See, Anthony Joshua isn't as big in America as Canelo Alvarez is, but Anthony Joshua is huge in the UK and all over the world. Canelo Alvarez can do the same thing. He can be that level of a star. And I think Callum Smith can do that with his career, and then he can still unify against Demetrius Andrade. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Jesus Alex Martin says Andrade or Triple G. I think Triple G is a good one. Big L says Demetrius and get all the belts. I think that's good. I think Demetrius is probably going to be his trickiest opponent. At the end of the day, people say that Demetrius Andrade is trash or he's not good. I don't think that. I think Demetrius Andrade is a very challenging and difficult fighter for anyone to fight. I think he's very slick. I think he knows how to use his jab. He uses lateral movement. He doesn't have weight issues at 160 like Danny Jacobs, so he's not going to come in the ring slow and lethargic. He's going to put together a good effort, and I think it's going to be a challenging fight in a similar fashion as the Idislani Lada fight was for Canelo. The only thing that matters as far as Demetrius Andrade, depending on how competitive he can be, is 2 things. 1, is Demetrius Andrade's work rate going to be enough to beat Canelo? And 2, can Demetrius Andrade take those shots from Canelo? Because Canelo is slippery as well. Canelo moves a lot. Canelo is defensively responsible. And Canelo Alvarez is a lot quicker than people may think. So Canelo Alvarez is going to be a problem. And if Demetrius Andrade can't handle those shots, he's not going to be able to keep Canelo off of him, and he may taste the canvas. But I think Demetrius Andrade would probably give him a better test than Danny Jacobs, than Triple G, because simply styles make fights. An elusive fighter who's already given Canelo problems before, such as Lada, Demetrius Andrade is a better version of that at this point. He's a better overall fighter at this point. You can see that Demetrius Andrade is a world champion. You say, oh, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. Look, this is his opportunity to prove it. Demetrius Andrade is no slouch. And you'll see that soon. He will put together a competitive fight, but I still pick Canelo Alvarez to win. I think he still just levels above all the competition at 160 and even 168. Let's keep going. HG13, Johnny Ringgold said Triple G, 24 very close rounds, and still there's doubts. You know what? I don't mind a Canelo Triple G 3. I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of people would like that fight. But I think the way it should go down is, to build that fight to Canelo Triple G 3. I think Canelo should go undisputed, and Triple G should fight Charlo. I think that would make sense. Or if Canelo wanted a tune-up fight, then Canelo could get a tune-up against Jermall tune-up Charlo in Mexico, and Triple G take on another opponent, face Demetrius Andrade, and then they fight for all the belts. I think you have to mix up the middleweight division a little more before simply just adding Canelo Triple G. You want to kind of build it up a little more. You want to build the anticipation. So I don't think rushing right into Canelo Triple G makes a lot of sense, since Canelo Alvarez already stated that he's going to be fighting 3 times this year. So I think that would make sense. Miguel Mojica says he should unify with Andrade and Charlo at the end of the year. And you notice a trend developing here. People want Andrade. People want Charlo. That's what people want. That's what people really want. Reginald Blunt says he should fight my boy Jermall Charlo and stop ducking or running. Y'all got Charlo messed up. I'm a boxer, and they paid the Charlos like him with training of a former old school fighter. No one middleweight would stand a chance fighting Jermall Charlo, so stop hating on hungry fighters. Well, Reginald, this is where you're absolutely wrong. And if you're a fighter, that's really sad, because that means you don't understand boxing and you're a fighter. At the end of the day, Jermall Charlo, you say that Canelo's ducking or all these other guys are ducking Charlo. First of all, Jermall Charlo is with the one promotional companies that refuses to make competitive fights. That's the promotional companies he's with. The protection of the PBC. So if Jermall Charlo is with the protection of the PBC, then how can he expect to get fights made? Al Heyman is notorious for not wanting to work with a top rank. He's notorious for not wanting to work with Matchroom Boxing. He's notorious for not wanting to work with these other promoters and Golden Boy. But at the same time, he'll work with these guys when it benefits him, or if it's a foregone conclusion that he has nothing at stake and he's giving away a fighter who's not a big name or who has no real investment to. So at the end of the day, he's being protected by the PBC, and not only that, Jermall Charlo has to seek out these fights. He has to go after these fights. And then, you say no one stands a chance. That makes no sense. That almost is borderline fanboyism when you look at it, because if you're being honest and unbiased, he struggled against Matt Korobov, who was supposed to be a tune-up fight, who was supposed to be a showcase fight, who Charlo was supposed to dispatch easy and early. See, a lot of people don't realize that, Matt Korobov is a decent opponent, but he's not an elite opponent. Who has Matt Korobov beat? A lot of guys try to hype Matt Korobov up to the levels that he was unstoppable force. He's a hell of a fighter. I think Matt Korobov is a very good fighter, a very interesting fighter, but he's not an elite level fighter. And at that point in his career, Matt Korobov shouldn't be expected to beat a guy like Charlo who's in his prime, a guy like Charlo who had home field advantage, basically. Korobov had already been knocked out. Korobov already been knocked out by Andy Lee in the 6th round in 2014. You have to understand, Matt Korobov, went 10 rounds with Emmanuel Alim most recently. These type of fights, and that's a draw. He shouldn't have these type of things. He shouldn't just had a draw against a no-name fighter. And I'm not sure these guys are realizing that there's levels in boxing. So if you're going, 10 rounds with a no-name fighter, how good is Matt Korobov really? How much can Matt Korobov take? How good can Matt Korobov be at this point? You have to be honest and unbiased when you analyze it, and these guys simply are not on the level of Demetrius Andrade, Canelo Alvarez, and Danny Jacobs, or Triple G. But let's dig into the next one. The next one comes from Majin, and he states some sort of tune-up like Spence, then Boo Boo after, and after that move up to 168 versus Smith. I think that'll be a hell of a fight plan. I think that fight plan would be great. I think that, they could build Canelo Alvarez's brand and the zone off of an easy fight like Errol Spence, and then unify with Demetrius Andrade, and then move up to 168 and get the belt from Callum Smith. I think that's a great fight plan, and I think it's a realistic one, but I just don't believe that the PBC and Errol Spence are ready to sell their ode to Canelo Alvarez at this point, because he stands no legitimate chance to beat Saul Canelo Alvarez. But once again, this is part 1 of who should Canelo Alvarez fight next with the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.